So I've been watching a lot of coverage in regards to NASCAR 25 when that comes out. It's going to be pretty exciting, of course. It's going to be probably one of the best NASCAR games in years. It's got to be better than 21 Ignition, am I right? I'm pretty excited about this. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this comes out, and it's going to be on new consoles. It's a good NASCAR console game because, of course, it's going to be from iRacing. It's going to have 4 NASCAR series. It's going to have the ARCA Menard Series, Craftsman Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series. So that's pretty exciting. But something I want to talk about that I haven't seen too many people discussing is who's going to be on the cover of NASCAR 25. Typically there is a cover athlete, though there's been a lot of exceptions. For example, NASCAR Thunder 02, we had a car, it was Jeff Gordon's car. NASCAR Dirt to Daytona, we had a lot of different cars on that one. NASCAR Heat 2002, you have Ricky Rudd and Dale Jarrett on the cover of their cars. And then, of course, you have Jeff Burton and, of course, Tony Stewart right at the front in NASCAR 2001. There's been a lot of games that have had no cover athlete in just the car itself, which I think is a good idea. Maybe that is what they should do, but that's not the point of this video. This point of the video is for me to make a case about somebody I think should be the cover athlete that nobody's talking about. In fact, if you're looking at the thumbnail, maybe you don't even recognize who that is. And you might be like, who the heck is this random driver? This driver is somebody who is the ultimate journeyman. He is a guy who's been in NASCAR for quite a while, actually, and has never won a championship. And he's never won the one thing that most NASCAR drivers want to win. So who am I talking about? You're like, come on, PK, spill the beans. Who is this driver so I can click off this video because I don't care what you actually have to say. Totally understand. I get where you're coming from. Okay, so the driver is Christopher Bell. No, not that Christopher Bell. Yeah, you know I was going to make that joke. Christopher Beltram Hernandez Yeley, better known as JJ Yeley. JJ Yeley is 48 years old. He has been racing in NASCAR since 2004 in the was the Busch Series, which is now the Xfinity Series, driving for Joe Gibbs Racing. And he's had an interesting, versatile career, to say the least. You know, a lot of people thought he might be the next big thing because he was a USAC Triple Crown winner, and the only other person who had been before that was Tony Stewart, which means he won all 3 series of USAC in the same year, which was a really big deal at the time. So he had done everything he could do on dirt in that regards when it came to USAC. So he was like, I'm going to try my hand at NASCAR, and he signed with Joe Gibbs Racing. Unfortunately, he was rushed to Cup. He was really rushed to Cup. He had a lackluster amount of Busch Series starts. He had some top 10s, which considering how many, Cup drivers were starting to drive in 2006 and stuff like that, you know what? It wasn't that bad really, but, he didn't do anywhere near as good as Denny Hamlin. His rookie season in the Cup Series was miserable, and Denny Hamlin, of course, finished 3rd in the points, which is the best a rookie has ever finished. So some people might be like, why? Why in the world would you want JJ Yeley to be the cover athlete? The reality is JJ Yeley has made 800 some starts in the Cup Series, Xfinity, and Truck. 800 some starts and never won. He's come close. He's come close several times. He, finished 2nd at Kentucky to David Gilliland, which was the biggest upset in Busch Series history. I think he finished 2nd at Memphis once in the Busch Series. And, of course, he finished 2nd to Casey Mears at Charlotte at the Coke 600 in the Cup Series. So he's had some moments where he came really close to winning, but he's just never got it done. So why? Why pick this guy? He's driven for 40-some teams, which I think is a record with more than that numbers, too. He's probably driven multiple different numbers. How many numbers has he driven? I don't even know, like 50-some maybe? It's crazy because he's driven for some of the same teams, but then he'd drive a different number. For example, like I said, David Gilliland, I'm actually a big David Gilliland fan. Believe it or not, JJ Yeley actually drove the 38 car for Front Row Motorsports when Travis Kvapil, I think, was driving that number for some reason. And he also drove maybe the 55, also for Front Row Motorsports. And I'm also a huge Todd Gilliland fan. Obviously, if you're a fan of David Gilliland, you're probably a fan of Todd Gilliland. There's not a lot of Gilliland fans out there, but maybe there's more now than there used to be. But anyways, I'm losing track here. I'm getting sidetracked here. So why? Why JJ Yeley, a guy with 800 starts, no wins? And I think there's 4 main reasons, and I'm going to go over those reasons. I'm sorry it took me this long to get over what those 4 reasons were. So let's go ahead. Let's talk about those reasons. JJ Yeley is a very versatile driver. He started out in dirt. He's driven basically every type of car for 20 some years. He's that guy people go to. He is an incredibly versatile driver. That's the first reason. Second reason is he has this, I don't know how to describe it, because you can't really say he's an Iron Man because, yes, he's been driving for 21 years and he has 800 starts to his name. But they weren't obviously consecutive. So calling him an Iron Man would be kind of weird, right? But he keeps showing up. He keeps going and getting rides. People keep hiring him in spite of the fact that he's 48 years old. I mean, he's not exactly in the prime of his career, but he continues to go out there and get the most out of the equipment that he's in. That's his race that he's running. He knows when he gets into that car, whatever he's driving for, he probably doesn't have a chance to win. That's the hard reality. And that, for a lot of drivers, is something they just can't bear because they are so highly competitive. But he's running a different kind of race. He's running his own race. He's going out there and trying to help a small team get the most out of their equipment. And that type of journeyman pretty much doesn't exist these days anymore, I mean, there's a lot of guys who did that kind of thing for a while. I mean, some people, you could argue, were riding around just collecting a paycheck. I mean, look at his predecessor in the Cup Series, Bobby Labonte, that he took over for. A lot of people are of the opinion that Bobby Labonte, towards the twilight of his career, was just riding around collecting a paycheck. But I feel like that's not what Yeley's doing. I feel like he's somebody who just genuinely wants to be there. Obviously, he had immense talent on dirt. He could have, after it just didn't work out in 2 or 3 years he was in Cup full time, he could have been like, I'm going back to dirt. A lot of people did that, like the Kinzers, obviously. Brad Sweet, that's another example of somebody who, tried their hand at NASCAR and it just didn't work out, so they went back to dirt racing. He could have done that, but he didn't. He really genuinely wants to be in the sport. And seeing a driver on the cover of a NASCAR game who just genuinely wants to be in the sport and will do anything to be in that sport, I think would be pretty cool. I think there's kind of a revival of JJ Yeley appreciation. I saw a NASCAR video recently about JJ Yeley that really kind of inspired me to make this video. I mean, he is such a throwback driver. He really is. He's a throwback to a very different time, to the Sam McQuaggs, those guys who just go out there and keep driving. They can't win anything, to save their lives, but he just goes out there because he feels it in his bones that he's a NASCAR driver. This is what he wants to do, and this is how he wants to make his living. He could do a number of things, but this is what he wants to do. He wants to be at that racetrack as many times a year as he can. He really is the guy who just goes out there and keeps grinding, even though he knows the odds are stacked against him. He just keeps going out there and grinding and doing the best he can for any team that'll hire him. To me, this would break the NASCAR athlete mold, honestly, because I think a lot of people expect it to be somebody like a Kyle Busch or somebody, like a Chase Elliott, a popular driver, a Ryan Blaney, somebody like that, somebody who's popular, Kyle Larson. There's so many popular, very successful drivers. This would be the most from left field choice ever. It would be bold and crazy. I don't think it'll happen in NASCAR 25. I think it's very unlikely. I'm sure they've already picked a cover athlete, or they're going to go the route they've done in the past, like with NASCAR Dirt to Daytona, where they had, multiple cars or just one car on the cover, which would make a lot of sense, honestly, since it's, the first year of this particular series of games. It would actually make a lot of sense to do that, and I see why they would do it. So overall, I just think JJ Yeley has a ton of longevity. He's been in the sport a long time, and I think that would do a lot for his career too. Maybe more, owners would notice. It's like, wow, they made this guy the cover athlete. Maybe we should check him out and see if we have an extra car to run or something like that. It's just incredible how dedicated he is to the sport. I think JJ Yeley has a huge underdog appeal, and that's what grassroots NASCAR is all about. It's all about the underdogs. That's what's exciting about NASCAR. It's not just the cars. It's those blue-collar guys who get in there and, give it their all. There's so many guys who, run at a local dirt track or something, with aspirations and dreams of NASCAR that just never make it. And I think that's something a lot of people miss about the old NASCAR games is this, grassroots, this underdog. And I think it would be just so believable if you saw JJ Yeley throughout the game just driving random cars. You would believe whatever number he was driving that, that was a real car because he's driven so many different numbers. You would believe it. You'd be like, oh yeah, JJ Yeley's driving that car or whatever. and you could actually maybe interact with him throughout the game. Maybe this wouldn't work for NASCAR 25. Maybe this would be more of a NASCAR 26 thing, which is why I made the thumbnail the way I did, actually, is because I think it's more likely that they've already decided what they're going to do. So the messenger from the future will probably tell me I'm wrong, which is what it is. Ultimately, from the fan perspective, I think a lot of people would appreciate seeing somebody on the cover who isn't just some super dominant champion or superstar that everybody knows. Somebody who goes out there and grinds rather than just dominates the sport. Somebody who just truly is there because they want to be there and not because, it's all about the money. There's definitely things JJ Yeley could have done that made more money than continuing to run in NASCAR. At the end of the day, I just think JJ Yeley would be perfect for the cover because he is a guy you could believe would drive in all 4 series and that you would come across him in all 4 series. Maybe you wouldn't come across him in every race, but you'd see him somewhere. That's the thing. He's a guy who will drive anything, anytime, anywhere. And you can't say that about every single driver. Yeah, sure, maybe a Cup driver will make a one-off start. Maybe like a Joey Logano will make a start for like Thor Sport in the Truck Series. Or maybe he'll make a start for AM Racing or something like that, like he did last year. But for the most part, you will not see many Cup drivers who will race anything, anytime, anywhere. Because, the reality is they have contracts and they can only race certain things and certain people. They can only race certain cars and they have to get approval from their Cup owners often. So having somebody who's just, absolutely a free agent and goes wherever they're needed would be really huge. And again, you could do a lot with the story overall of the game. And I think that's something that would make NASCAR 25 or 26 a better game, is having a story, because that's what excites so many NASCAR fans, is the fact that the story, of these drivers, the drama between them, I mean, like Carson Hocevar, was acting wild the other day. It's like I could be saying this at any time, anywhere, because he's always doing crazy stuff. But I'm talking about how, he just was driving at Atlanta on the last lap and tried to make a place where there was no place. People love NASCAR because of the drama, the excitement of drivers racing head to head and doing whatever it takes to win that race. But I think JJ Yeley represents sort of a throwback to the journeyman NASCAR driver who isn't there just to win a race, but to go out there and give it their all and do the best they can with the equipment they have because they really want to be there and they want to be in the sport. So what are your guys' thoughts? Is JJ Yeley really the craziest choice I could have made? Who would you have picked? Give me your thoughts. Who do you pick for your NASCAR 25 or 26 cover athlete? Comment below. Love to hear what you have to say. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching and stay awesome in this universe. Later.